So often.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting generally confused in the last few weeks anyway. So whether that was a fast onset of dementia or not, I don't know. He was getting very confused about a lot of things, but part of the problem was that he wasn't having his oxygen levels were very, very low. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can
So
cause confusion.
do you know how low they were?
They varied significantly.
Um,
Because I mean, essentially what happened was he used to be a smoker many, many years ago. Apparently that causes or can cause bubbles on the lung, and
okay.
one of the bubbles burst, so basically put a hole in the lung. He also had emphysema, which we didn't know about, and so because the lung had a hole in, obviously it was leaking air into the chest cavity, which meant that was causing pain, and the lung couldn't expand, or the lungs couldn't expand. So the idea was to put a chest drain in to let the air out, but there was more air going in, leaking from the lung than they could actually get out. So, so the idea was that they said they wanted to put a pump on him to try and extract it enough. And the idea was that they said the idea was that they were going to try and pump enough out so that they could so that the lung would expand. And the idea is they thought they could put some sort of glue in it and glue it to the chest cavity to fill the hole up.
All
Um,
right.
but because he wasn't getting enough oxygen in, because one lung wasn't working very well and one wasn't working at all, he kept getting confused. And whenever he was going out to the toilet or something like that, he was pulling all the tubes out and all the pump out.
Okay. Yeah.
And it got to the
Yeah.
stage after about the fourth time when they said, well, it's now going to get difficult and painful and all the rest of it. That they said, no, if it comes out again, we're just not going to put it back. It's going to be palliative care. And that's what happened.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's uh, so tell me, so does that come along the lines of under COPD then, or is that completely
I
different?
believe there was that involved as well.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
not totally sure. I've not seen all the stuff yet, and I haven't
Yeah.
had any updates from either his sister or my brother. I'm still, I said, well, get me involved. I'm quite happy to do all the admin, chase stuff up and whatever. But for some reason, my brother's decided he wants to do it, and he seems to be permanently non-contactable. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, when there's deaths involved as well, it all becomes very, very tricky with families as well.
Mhm.
It's like, and that's what we have to understand with the whole dementia thing as well. It's like becomes very tricky with families. There's so much resentment involved. So there's always something one family feels they're doing more than another, and one family member, and it's like it's huge. So I thought today actually what we would discuss is guilt
Yeah.
and self-punishment. Uh, and again, because these are all things that people can have anyway, no matter what stage of life they're in.
Yeah.
And it can, as I say before, it can also be the silent factor for hypertension, for high blood pressure. It's that, there's so many different silent things. And these are the things that we can help people with, because that is the one dementia that we can help people prevent. So, and it's often the caregiver that will also have all these issues, because now the one looking after the care partner, sorry, looking after their loved one. But again, it's like that's why we can be a whole thing for the whole family, because who else is feeling this guilt, this, and then this self-punishment and all that kind of thing. And it goes into the word of responsibility, I think. It's quite interesting. I just had a client today. She's only 25. And yet she has always felt this massive responsibility for her whole family. And she's always had to be good, and never complain, never say anything. It's quite interesting, isn't it? How these words can be, these behaviours can be massive. So I just thought, has anybody come across or use Gestalt
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
do you, Carrie Ann, have you come across him?
Uh, I know of him, but I've not really delved into that.
It's a really helpful
And
way.
maybe I have, and I didn't know.
Yeah, and I know, and it's one of
I
those
picked
that
up.
you can use for like 6 months, and then something happens, you've got a new thing, and then
Yeah.
you're using that, and then and
Yeah.
then it comes up again, and you might use it for another month, and then you find, you know, I find I go through phases of you know, of like really using like a certain thing with
Tools.
clients, and or I get a whole bunch of clients that are all doing this, needing the same thing. It's just how it, I think, goes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
The so there is a Gestalt prayer as well. I don't know if you've come across that, Gary, in your time. I know, or it's an optional Gestalt prayer. So what I'll probably do is, as well, I'll probably take a snapshot of this and send it to you both, you know, like a little file. But it's quite interesting. I'll just go through it with you, and while I'm doing it, I want us to pick it apart, yeah, because I think that's fun to do, of what we all think to it. So first of all, this is what we would do with somebody, and as I say, it says here, the Gestalt dialogue is a wonderful way for clients to express themselves in a safe way and to complete unfinished business. So now, if we're seeing somebody for guilt or self-punishment, or they just don't forgive themselves, or still angry with somebody about something, you know, maybe it is their own parent or an ex-wife or a child or whatever it is, an ex-husband or whatever it is. So this is what we do. We induce the trance in whatever way we want to do that, and then ask the client to imagine the other person enters the room, and the starts client off by asking them to say out loud, there are some things I want to tell you about. So guide them as they express their feelings, help them be specific. How did it make you feel? What did it mean to you? So what do we think to that? I mean, it's a bit like the NLP perceptual positions, when we sit, and we can do that in eyes open, but asking the client straight off to, you know, to say out loud to this imaginary person, there are some things I want to tell you about. And wow, if somebody's feeling guilty, can you imagine what that might be like for them if, say, they've abused somebody?
Now, this imaginary person is the person that they have this feeling of guilt with?
I would.
Or is it anybody? It could be any kind of an imaginary.
Could be any kind of their guilt, any kind of thing, and they could do it for anger. You could do it for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So there are some things I want to tell you about, and it's just opening in, you know, if you're into chakras and stuff, it's opening that throat chakra, because it lets somebody get something off their chest.
Okay.
And it just could even be to a brother, you know, you were mean to me and I hated you, and that's why I hid your, I don't know, whatever, your record that you, or I broke your record on purpose, but I never told you. I don't know, it could be that kind of thing that they're still harboring guilt for. But all that can weigh heavy on somebody's heads. And then if they have dementia, then they're suddenly talking about this record or this other thing, you know. I'm just saying, for instance. So if we can get people when they're first you know, have issues, is there anything you'd like to let go of? This is just another way we could do it.
Yeah.
So guide them as they express their feelings, help them be specific. You know, again, if somebody's got dementia, they may find it difficult, but actually, or they may, or because it's from long ago, they may know it very vividly. You know, yeah, I'm sorry at the time I put worms down mum's bed or something. I don't know, whatever it is. Ask the client to switch places and reply as the other person. and then they have to sort of like keep swapping. So gently guide to resolution if possible. Were you aware that your actions were hurting that person? Because of course the thing is, we all know that when we're in a I'm sure we've all been in these positions, I know I definitely have, where you do the best you can with the knowledge you have at the time, and then afterwards only hindsight, because hindsight gives you more options, I think, than where you were at the time. And then that means that you can then start having guilt because of the hindsight. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, I do switching places sometimes.
You do switching places. So
yeah, I do that sometimes, especially if it's a child, where they felt that in a regression type of thing, and they felt that they have been, these horrible things. They just went through this horrible experience or whatever, and I will have the adult version hold the child and tell the child what she really needed, he or she really needed to hear, and just get a sense of that, since that child or baby or in their lap, and the smell of them and that whole thing. And then I have them switch places and feel the nurturing.
Yeah, so that's like inner child work.
So it's the same. Yeah, it's the same, similar kind of thing.
Same kind of principle. And then I'm going to read the Gestalt prayer to you. So this is optional. I'm just going to read it to you. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. Okay. I don't have to live up to any childhood patterns or conditioning anymore. And that means, so whatever the client says in their own words, and you don't have to live up to anything that I have ever expected of you. And that means, again, the client's words, I now understand that I am I and you are you. And that means, again, for the client, from now on, I'll do my thing. And that means, and you can carry on doing your thing. And that means, if we can ever discover each other as friends, it will be wonderful. And that means, but if that never happens, I can accept that too, for that's the way it is. And that means whatever it is for the client again. I'll as I say, I'll take a picture of this to send it to you, because then it'll be easier for you to understand. But it's quite interesting. It's taking responsibility, it's acknowledging it, so it's acceptance, and then in my opinion, it's practically saying, can we, be, I forget, this is the way I am and you're the way you are. It's like, I'm right, you're right, we're both right, but we're both wrong, it doesn't matter. It's like, let it go kind of thing. Which is again a bit of the what's it, ego states. What is it? I'm right, you're right. We can, and it's true. So it's just like, let it be. What does anybody think to that? Gary, what are your thoughts on it?
I use it, but probably the way around. I tend to use Gestalt more in sort of when the person themselves might have been wronged or abused. Not necessarily sexual abuse, but quite often with that. But any type of perhaps childhood abuse, whether it's verbal, mental, and whatever. And so I get them to do it there, and I don't always get them to actually be the other person. But I mean, particularly in certain things, depending on what's happened to them.
No, you wouldn't.
No, sometimes I get them to imagine why the other person did or said what they did. Do you think there's any reason why they might have done it? Is there any frailties in them? Any problems that might have made them do that, and whatever, and perhaps process it that way. Or sometimes I just get them to imagine perhaps that the person sitting opposite them is actually powerless and frail and looking so sort of insignificant that they can now really shout at them, bawl at them, and let them absolutely have it to make themselves feel better.
Yeah. I don't think I would use it for abuse. I've done it for anger.
I would. I mean, I would tend to do things like guilt and that different ways. I wouldn't use it for that sort of thing.
No, it's I have used it for anger, and I've had this man shouting so much at my chair. All right, I was standing next to him. My husband came down, and then he realized that it was a session. He thought that somebody was like, because he was really letting it out, and it was like, it was good, but it was like, I did think, oh, my husband might not like this. So, but it's a good way of getting things out of you. Again, you've got to decide, where you're comfortable using it. It's just another thing that you can use. As I say, I'll send it to you, and you can adapt it. And if you use similar stuff, as I say, I generally personally use it for anger more than anything. Because I use my eye movements, I use my bunny stuff a lot. So but it's just what we're doing with this for the basis of this course is just giving ourselves more options, and just discussing the whole fact that guilt and self-punishment is going to be one of the emotions and the behaviors that is displayed. And then we need to get curious. And where did they learn it? What's it from? Can we clear it? And this is an optional way that you could clear something, and they could just have a conversation with somebody, and you guide them through it. Because that person, if they are more mature and older, that person may be dead. It may be, so they can't actually personally do it. And then so that could be quite sad, I suppose, because they can't, then they're just left with the guilt of it that they say did break their record collection or whatever it is. But then if they're having this imaginary conversation and then saying, yeah, I did, and I can actually say sorry.
I'm wondering if you could do that with like higher self.
Yeah, I use it occasionally, actually, not for very short term, but longer term grieving, occasionally. So I wouldn't do it in sort of, the first few weeks or few months, only if it was like after a couple of years, which is one of the recommendations of the hospital. We don't let anybody come in as a volunteer or do work there until 2 years after somebody's passed away.
Right,
I think it's processed enough. But if it's a longer term, then I might get the person to imagine that they have now come in for one more meeting and they're sitting opposite, and they can now tell them everything they want to tell them to sort of get over any unfinished business.
Yeah, I do that with grief. Get them to go to the gate, and then they have a chat, and then they go back and say whatever they want, and then they're in the peaceful garden. It's really helpful, actually, really helpful. And I had one person just recently, she said, she goes, my mother's just come through. She goes, what do you want? I'm having a party. She goes, get on with your life. Stop worrying. And she woke up laughing. She goes, well, there you go. That was her. She was always having a party. So you see, it's whatever is right for the person. And but that was what she got from the mother. Go, just go. You're fine. Get on with it. So it's it's pretty good. There's all sorts of things that we can do. Carrie Ann, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure now. I usually go to higher self.
Oh, higher self. That was
the other person's higher self. I connect the higher selves to speak, but it's the same thing. What needs to be heard, what needs to be said, and what higher self has to say about it.
Yeah, because it's all us, isn't it? It's all the person inside. So it is all the same thing. And again, it's quite interesting, the whole thing about us educating people on forgiveness. Because we all know that we can often be our own harshest critic. And if we have, again, I think we mentioned that last week, that you have, so say we have somebody living with dementia, And then they're sitting there, and it's like the whole goes back to the perfectionism bit, because we were talking about perfectionism last week, that they're sitting there and they've forgotten how to use their knife and fork. They could get very angry because they don't know, but they're not sure why. And then it's like, but because they're being there, you know, and then they could just explode about something else, even flip the whole plate up because they don't know what to do with it. Now they're then feeling guilty and say feel bad because now they've made a mess, and their care partner might be crying because she's just cooked a meal and now it's all over the place and she's exhausted. And yet the whole thing was because actually he'd forgotten how to use his knife and fork. Forgot the second order. Forgot the second order. And then, of course, we have that person living with dementia who's then angry with themselves again and again and again. And so it's, you know, it's like, so it's the whole thing, or people can almost become like behind bars. They're like in a jail, because when will the suffering end? And they do call it suffering, and it's not nice, is it? Which is why we have the job of encouraging our care partners to sit with them and remind them how to eat, use the knife and fork, always do the second, you know, just be with them, notice the behavior. If that happens, okay, get curious. We get curious all the time about people's behavior. But of course, then just say we have that care partner who's having to deal again with the you know, this angry person. Now they could be feeling guilty, for feeling resentful, all the emotions. Gosh, when were you just going to home? Or when we, you know, we don't know what could be going through their minds. It's so we have to, that's how we can, as I say, almost, because hindsight is a wonderful thing. And all these people, they might think, oh, if only I'd known about that second order thing, that I've got to sit down and show them how to use their knife and fork. I've got to show them, sit next to them and put my socks on so they know that they put their socks on, put my underwear on, then they know to put their underwear, you know, because people have just forgotten the next order sometimes, and not every day, just sometimes. So it's, and then we have to, so that's where we can come in, also do self-forgiveness for people a lot. They have to do self-forgiveness. How do you encourage people to do self-forgiveness?
Again, it varies depending on the person. Sometimes I would do sort of a clearance protocol and include it into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would get them to imagine sort of on a beach and picking up pebbles, and each one represents something, and then they're throwing it out to sea and that type of thing.
Yeah, they could write the nasty thing, or on a balloon, and then it can go up. Or there's so many different ways that we could potentially do it. Again, the Gestalt, you could do that with a conversation, just saying I apologize. Carrie Ann, have you got?
I do stones, not balloons, because it's not ecologically sound, is it? Balloons now.
No, and do you know what? You're right. I tell you what, helium balloons are terrible for horses. So yeah, but in your imagination, people might like balloons, but it's not quite so bad. For the ecological, I do think that's hilarious, Gary, that you said that.
Yeah, it is.
So
that's a great idea, though, the pebbles. I don't know that I've ever used that.
Yeah, and well, it's your belief. So you would find out, you would not, you're quite right, Gary's quite right. If you know that they are very like, if they're vegan, if they're vegetarian, if they're very, you wouldn't do the balloons. That would actually go against their belief system. So with Gary, we definitely wouldn't use balloons.
In fact, you're saying it made you laugh. It's something that'll make you laugh further. When I was away on traveling, I went to the Game of Thrones studio and things,
Oh, wow.
and saw that. But they had various merchandise and a couple of people. There was one particular sort of sweatshirt hoodie that people saying that's definitely you, and I had to buy. And you're laughing, and it is right. The slogan on it says "I drink and I know things."
Did you get it?
Yeah.
I drink and I know
Yeah, I
things.
thought it's sort of me. Yeah, I
Oh,
drink.
it's very you. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Oh, I love it. Yeah, good. So yeah, so there's lots of different ways, as I say, but it is self-forgiveness is important. And you could just encourage, yourself to see yourself and have a conversation with yourself. And have a two-way conversation. It's like, because we all know that we would perhaps forgive somebody else, but we can't ever seem to forgive ourselves, and it's just about letting, just giving ourselves that grace. And what did you learn? So I always would encourage somebody to go, well, what did you learn? What did you learn from that? Because there's never a fail, there's only learning.
That's right.
And then oh well, if I learned something, then that's okay, because we all, as it's again another cliche, we all fail. We've got to fail moving forwards. We just do. We can't. I don't know one person who has ever moved forwards and has never and has got everything right every single time. Do you?
Yep.
No.
We've all made choices. I used to tell my kids there's no wrong choices, only lessons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all those all of
Yeah.
them, and they're all right. um, okay. So, yeah, and as you said, talk to your younger self. That I do that within a child. The older as older who knows more things can talk to our younger self and do self-forgiveness there as well. So it's quite nice. Now, again, I don't know what you think to this, but I think that a lot of these things, when we feel guilty, when there's lack of self-forgiveness, then there's a low self-esteem. Don't know what you think to that. And in my opinion, again, tell me what you think. Confidence is what we wear on the outside, and that's what we present to the world. Our self-esteem is what we have on the inside. And that's how we might feel about ourselves, but nobody else really knows. And that's where the guilt and the inner fear and inner judgment and lack of all those inner things can be inside. It's my understanding that in general, it's helpful if we get our self-esteem from our parents, that we know that we are worthy, we are important, we are heard, we are lovable, we are good enough. Because we never need, in my opinion, ever need to be good enough. Now, again, in my opinion, we can build our own self-esteem. And that is by giving to others. And the best way to give is with our time, doing things for other people. And that's how we can help ourselves for our own self-esteem. We can build that up ourselves. I'm going to throw that out to you. Let's explore it. What do you think to what I've just said there, Carrie Ann?
Well, I like it. I like that. And I don't know that I've ever contemplated that, that the confidence was kind of what we were outside, but it kind of has to come from inside too. But self-esteem is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I use that a lot in my certain, especially when I'm working with someone to really get in touch with who they really are. Then
Yeah.
I use the self-esteem. So that's exactly what that is, you know, that inside thing. But I think that lends itself to a confidence outside.
I
I mean,
agree,
because
because you have
confidence can
really
really be, you know, it's one of those things that something could happen that would um, dent the self-esteem, or, you know, that would mirror something that, like you say, if they haven't had a wonderful, nurturing uh, childhood that, you know, told them how wonderful they are all the time, then that can, you know, they can outwardly look confident, but that would
but I
dent
mean,
that
they might
confidence, you know.
outwardly look it just to get on
Right.
in
But
life.
that, you know, then that would make them withdraw
Yeah, but they
a little
don't
bit,
feel it. Yeah,
and as far as confidence goes. But it's interesting observation.
yeah.
Never thought of that.
Gary, your thoughts?
I'd have said about 90% of people I work with have some sort of self-esteem or confidence issue.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
always a byproduct of whatever you're working with.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's imperative that we help them. So we go back to if we're seeing people living with dementia and their care partner, and you know, say various parts of the family, we get curious and just notice what we notice, and the way we build their confidence and self-esteem up is by noticing and inquiring what they've done and what they have achieved. And but we also have to get very curious about every single area so that we can help them let go of those other things that may be holding them back. The self-esteem part again is going to be hard to build it up themselves, but I don't think so, because this is what somebody can do. So if we have a client living with dementia who has poor self-esteem, and then they're thinking, well, who's going to want to know me? What can I do? I can't do anything. There'll always be something they can do. There will always be something that they can do, obviously, until sadly the dementia gets so bad that they're not with us anymore and they're in a home. Okay, because we can't stop the full-blown disease. However, there will be things that they can do, and it's about finding what they can do to so it's random acts of kindness, just little random acts. And it could be that they can still bake. It could be that they can still do plants and seedlings and give people plants and seedlings. It could be that maybe they can still knit and crochet. It could be that they can teach their grandchild how to write cursive. It's because there's still, you know, as I say, we'll be at the beginning bit of it. No, we won't be. Somebody it won't call us in for the stage 6, 7, even 5, 6. They won't. So it'll be just at the beginning. This is happening. How can we be in this stage for a long time? And this is how we can do it, by reducing all of the stresses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this kind of guilt is one of the stresses. And and lack of self-forgiveness about anything, because it's like, you know, that they may, I mean, and they may, of course, not die of dementia. They may die of something else before then. However, it's the fact is that they will then know, at some point they will, especially if it's a prefrontal lobe dementia is quite rapid. So, and in my understanding, alcoholic dementia is quite rapid as well. So it depends which one you've got, you know, because there are 100 different types. So what can we do? So we get, you know, this is if you notice that they have low self-esteem, nobody will want to know me. What's the point of me? And this is the way we can help them build their own self-esteem. And it's by giving, it's by them giving to other people.
Oh, they feel worth, they feel, yeah, they have some worth that way. Yeah. I
Yeah.
can remember my grandmother, who was, I just remember how old she was at the time, but she was moving to Florida because my parents moved to Florida, and my mother pretty much took care of her. And so she was staying with us, and my son that was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old or something, they, you know, how the schools have these little Christmas fairs where they can go and buy things. And so he buys this um, uh, like coffee mug that says #1 grandma on it. And he comes home in with this and he says, this is for, well, we called her Boost Nana. He said, this is for Boost Nana. And I said, well, you have so many grandmothers. He goes, I said, why would you give it for Boost Nana? And he said, because she's lost her confidence.
Oh.
That's what he said. He recognized that at even a very young age.
Oh. Oh my
She's
gosh.
lost her confidence. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's showing her that she is important.
right, right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
and then he felt good for doing that.
Right. Right.
And so
And
and
she
so
loved it, of course.
yeah, of course. Yeah, well, she'll have that always. Every time she looks at the mug, she'll remember it because she's
Yeah.
anchored into the mug now.
Yeah,
And that's why gifting things is so lovely.
it
Because
is.
you always remember that somebody remembered you.
Mhm.
So yeah. So there's all sorts of things. I've got a whole list. I mean, do you do random acts of kindness?
I guess so, occasionally, yeah.
My dog does.
Yeah.
On here, it's one picking up rubbish. My dog picks up rubbish when we're on a walks around with a bottle or whatever it is, and then obviously then I put it in the bin. But it's quite funny. He'll take it for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, oh well, good, because
Yeah.
it frustrates. I hate trash, rubbish. It drives me
Yeah.
nuts that people just I know sometimes it gets blown out of something, but anyway. So send someone a handwritten thank you letter. How often do people do that anymore?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
at all because of postage costs.
Yeah, and I used to make my kids do that all the time. I still do actually. From here, I will send. The postage costs in England are terrible. What is? I remember when
Have send out cards. Do you have that?
What?
Anything like that? Send
What?
out cards? But it's
Yeah,
a
you can send out
card
cards, but
app that you
you
can
still have to
send to your
post them.
clients or whatever, but you're actually sending a card. You can put your own handwriting into it or just send a note, but actually getting a card in the mail that says, and it might have a picture of them on it, or it might, you can do all kinds of things with it.
I don't. I've got Jacqueline Lawrence that I do for digital cards, but it's under
The
my
digital
husband's.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's under my husband's.
It's too expensive to do it. I mean, it's what's the current exchange rate? I mean, if you wanted to send like we call it a postcard, just a standard card, and that would be what? I don't know. I mean, that would be to send something like a postcard with handwritten postcard would be $2.50.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It does get expensive. I'm trying to think. It's a couple dollars to send a card. So postcard would be cheaper. I don't know. I have to look at what the postcards would cost with send out cards. But
Yeah.
it's significantly cheaper.
That's the
And they
cheapest
do
price is
everything. They
$2.50.
send it out and everything. And you just have a card catalog of the people, your clients, family, whatever.
Oh no, I
So,
mean this $2.50 is if you actually have the card yourself, you do it yourself, and you take it to a post box or a post office. If you want one of
Oh,
these,
that's just for the postage?
that's
yeah.
just for the postage.
Just for the postage. It doesn't, I mean, cards to
That
buy
doesn't.
a card now is
Yeah, that doesn't.
outrageous.
That's just the postage. That doesn't include the
Yeah,
cost of the card or getting it anywhere. That's just purely the postage you need to put on it.
yeah. I got it.
Cards, Hallmark cards and cards in America are a lot more expensive than they are in England.
Oh, are they?
Unless you say
Yeah.
go to Trader Joe's and you can get them for $1 each. But there's
Yeah.
okay, I'll just throw these out for you. Buy a lottery ticket for a complete stranger. I've never done that. Have you done that?
No,
Oh. Put some coins in someone else's parking meter. Have you ever done that?
no. I've given people, although it's not technically legal, I've given people my parking ticket where that hasn't expired.
I've done that. Actually, I have done that. I've gone, oh, I've got a couple of hours. You just, do you want it? Yeah, I must admit I've done that. Help an elderly neighbour carry their rubbish out.
Yeah, I've helped people sort of cross the road or carry
Yeah,
shopping and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, we do that.
I've helped more mature people. Buy coffee for the homeless man on the high street.
Yeah, I've never done any of that.
I've given them soap. But no, only because we had some water, my friend and I, and so we gave him the water, but he then actually said, have you got any soap? So when I was at the Sahara in Las Vegas and I was walking today to the CVS to get some fruit, I took some soap with me and there was a man and I just said, would you like this? And he went, oh, yes, please. So I gave him some those little bars of soap that you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to a homeless person and have a normal conversation.
Mhm.
Have you ever done that?
No, not
I
because
don't
quite
know
often
that
they're not making sense because they're pissed or on drugs or something
I
crazy.
know. The only time I did,
Although the one thing I did recently, actually, which on
yeah.
into that, is that we have a pub quiz in town every couple of weeks,
Mhm.
and anyway, the down between I always get the bus back because it's quite a long way rather than my local one. This is like sort of 40-minute walk, so and it's uphill coming back, so I always go walk down and get the bus back. And actually, under the arches there is always a sleeping bag at night. There's somebody actually sleeps there rough at night, and we actually won the quiz, and I think I won about £7 or £8, and I just left it on his sleeping bag as I was passing by.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a teenager, I was living in London, and I was on a bus, and there was a homeless man. He was on it as well with all his bags, and I got chatting to him, and he was actually used to be a poet, and he was telling me all this life and all this thing, but then he said he was and he said he was famous, but anyway, he was a poet, but he fell on hard times because he went through a divorce, and he just was so upset by it, he couldn't whatever, and then that was that. He just, so it was like, so from that, I think I was about 19. I always thought, yeah, do you know what? It's not just, they don't choose it. It just sometimes can happen to anybody. He said, I used to have this, but I don't anymore. My life's in these bags and I'm okay now. It was like, because I think she took him for I don't know, there was just something. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's,
change overnight. I mean, when you say things change overnight, I mean something I did do, which was a few $100s actually, was one of the last countries I toured extensively before COVID was Ukraine, and I kept in touch with our tour guide, and just as the war started, her husband was in the military, and she just had a baby as the war started. And lived with a disabled mother and a couple of cats and stuff. They got out to be a refugee, but they actually came back and whatever because of lots of other difficulties. And I must admit, I did send her some money to because when it kicked off, when they were going away trying to be a refugee and stuff.
nice. So you see, life can change just like that.
Mm.
So we get curious. We always go back to that, the whole judgmental bit. There's only one person who, in my opinion, who can be judgmental, and that's God. So walk your friend's dog. I've got my own dog. But we found a dog, poor little thing. My husband and I were going for a walk. This was near when ours had died. And so we were taking a walk anyway. And there was this dog just walking around. And I'm like going, well, you can't just leave the dog walking around. So my husband went back for the lead. I was cuddling the little doggy. And it was a pit bull, actually. But anyway, so my husband came back with a lead, and I said, well, I'm still wanting to go for my walk. The dog can come with us. So it did. And the lady, and then, we had the number. I said, when, we've got your dog. And she said, oh, I'll be about an hour. Can you look after her? So I said, yeah, sure. So anyway, so there you go. So walk a friend's dog. She wasn't a friend, but I did walk the dog. Give a compliment about your waiter, waitress to her manager.
Yeah, we do.
A nice thing to do, isn't it? Yeah, I do that.
It is.
Send someone a small gift anonymously. Ooh, have I ever done that? I don't think so. Send someone a gift, but not anonymously. Stop and help someone replace their flat tire. I wouldn't know how.
I was just going to say I'd be in big trouble on that one.
Actually, I've tried to help, but then I've had to just flag somebody else down because I've been useless. But I was with some young kids once, and they were like freaking out. Can you change the tire, Gary?
Well, they are all variable nowadays, but yeah, I have had to on my own vehicles in the past.
Let someone jump the queue at the bank or supermarket.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. Pay for the drinks on the next table at a cafe. I've not done that.
I don't think I've ever done that.
Treat a friend for no reason.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, you've done that plenty of times, Gary. Give a huge tip to someone when they least expected it. I don't think I've done that.
No, not British. We haven't got the tipping mentality anyway.
No, we don't. Americans do. Have you done that, Carrie-Anne? Given a huge tip?
I leave tips all the time, and sometimes generous, but huge. I don't know if I've ever done a huge tip like that.
$100 or something. Hold the train door open for someone rushing to get in. Yeah, I think we've probably done that. You can see this is English, actually. Hold the train door. How many trains have you ever been on, Carrie-Anne?
I've been on a few, but not lately.
They're not old anymore. They're electronic.
I know. Well, exactly. They just go open. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But there you go. You see, make a card at home and send it to a friend for no reason. I used to do that when I was little.
Yeah.
Give up your seat for someone, not just an elderly person. Well, I have for pregnant. Yeah. Pick up some rubbish in the road which would otherwise be lying around. Definitely. Have you done that? I'm sure you've all done that. Compliment a work colleague for their excellence. Yeah, I think we've done that.
Yeah.
Recommend a competitor to a potential client. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, I think I've done that too.
Give another driver your parking spot. Probably they were just going to take it anyway. I don't know. Tell someone how much you appreciate them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Leave a copy of an interesting book on a train or a bus.
No, never done that.
We've done that. You see, these are all things that random acts of kindness. But somebody might say that that's leaving your trash behind.
Yeah.
Buy an inspirational book for a friend.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Send a thank you note to a person who has helped you in the past, but only if we don't have to post it, right? Yeah. And then smile a lot.
I think that's a big one
my
too.
granddad used to say, smile a while and soon there will be miles and miles of smiles. And it's true.
People smile at me all the time, and Chuck says, "Do you know that person?" Or my, whoever I'm with goes, "Did you know that person?" I'm going, "No." I just smiled at them. They smile back, and
Yeah,
it's kind of a
exactly. You are very
recognition
smiley.
of other people.
Yeah,
It's
you are very
recognizing.
smiley. Yeah. We need to stick a smiley face on Gary. He's not smiling right now. But yeah, so there's various things that we can do. I'll send you this thing about the Gestalt. You can write letters as well, letters to yourself for forgiving yourself.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then nobody needs to see it.
Yeah.
To my younger self, to my older self, to my future self, letter writing. And we don't need to post it. It can just be be just kept or burnt or whatever people need to do. But we do need to notice that whole guilt thing for our clients. Like they may be feeling guilty that they've ruined their spouse's life because they've got dementia. Like they didn't ask for it, did they? However, we then have to remember, have they got vascular dementia? Now, this is the one that we can help prevent. So it's like, therefore, then guilt. Yeah, I didn't look after myself properly, and so therefore, yeah, I did. I had got strokes and I got dementia. So therefore, the guilt, and that's why we need to have the acceptance and self-forgiveness coming in, and need to build that. Need to build them back up. Right, that's happened. Now, what's next? Next play, next opportunity to get you. So you don't have any more. What else can we do? And that's the brain health coaching with all those other bits. But we need to. But if the negativity is coming in, then that's the thing they're running through their head, which isn't going to help them. So we have to get curious about what it is, about how they got it. So this is why I brought this up today. Okay. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it helpful?
That's a big thing.
Yeah. And probably same with you, Gary. If you've got when we just turn it tail, people, if they've got lung cancer and they got it smoking or any smoking, they can feel very guilty for that.
Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of things where this will come in. So there we go. Anyway, I will see you all next week for another one.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, it's all food for thought, isn't it?
It is. It's great. It's all good.
All right. Okay. So take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.